Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet.
This review is brought to you in part by Dean's Hobby Stop in Owasso, Michigan. Dean's has one of the Midwest's largest selections of used kits at great prices. They also feature new kits and supplies as well. Call Dean's to get their mail order list featuring hundreds of vintage kits, or check their website for great deals on both new and classic models. This review covers the AMT Blueprinter 125 scale kit number 8158, which includes a Corvair 145 engine. Now, the Corvair was Chevrolet's response to competition from Volkswagen, and it's very popular with the dune buggy builders, and the same thing today with people who build models of dune buggies. This would be a great addition and replacement for the Volkswagen Flat 4. It's a nicely detailed kit. It's got about 22 pieces molded in dark gray, and there's two building options, with and without the Spyder turbocharger. Now, you'll find that the kits, of course, are no longer in production, although they have been reproduced a couple times, sometimes in all chrome, but you can still find them at online auctions. The firing order for the Corvair has odd numbers on the right and evens on the left, and we'll be wiring this with an aftermarket distributor and wired set that we're going to make the engine look a little more realistic with. Well, as I mentioned, here's the a graphic for the firing order, and also here's a photo of the aftermarket wired distributor that we'll be using. And well, the one good thing about those is if you get usually 8 wires, including sometimes one for the coil, but you can always cut out the extras, like as in this case we just removed two of the wires because this is a 6-cylinder and not an 8-cylinder kit. Here's the instruction sheet for the parts list, and with a parts list for the of this Corvair engine. You can see the Spyder option with the 5 pieces up in the upper right hand corner there. You'll also need to trim off some tabs on the headers. First thing to do is to remove all the parts from the tree, and you see the 5 parts on the left, that's Spyder option pieces, and we're going to trim those all up and clean them up. There'll be some sprue attachment points and some ejection pin marks you want to clean up for your engine. Next, I attached them to some double-sided tape and sprayed them with some just some general primer. You just want to get one that is made for plastic. So give them a light coat and attack them from the different angles so that you get all the different sides of the pieces. Then turn them over if needed and do those sides too. You can see some of the pieces here that need to be painted aluminum. So you can go ahead and just brush paint those. Make sure the primer is dry before you start, but yeah, give them a good coat. Make sure that you get all the crevices painted nicely so that you've got a nice place to, or I should say a nice presentation to your aluminum parts. Paint the fan belt and the pulleys flat black. And now we'll give the exhaust manifolds and the cooling fan a coat of steel color paint. And next we'll get into a little bit of construction here. We're going to use just some slow setting tube glue so that you can adjust the parts for proper fit. And remember that you're going to have to scrape any paint off from areas that you want to glue so that it will adhere well to the styrene plastic. The same goes for plating on other models, but glue won't stick to paint either. Next we'll use a semi-gloss black to paint these cylinders. They're inside there, right up next to the block, of course. So give them a good coat of black paint, and you can use a brush. It's pretty easy to delineate those surfaces in there, so go ahead and paint that at this time. I sourced a fan shroud from another kit, and I painted the valve covers red just for some pizzazz. On the left is a fan shroud that I used from the Man from U.N.C.L.E. kit, but I rounded off the corners more like a real Corvair fan shroud, and as I showed you earlier, painted it red. Next we'll use a little semi-gloss black to paint the top of the engine cover. And next, glue the sump, the oil sump, into position, and then go ahead and glue the top, the upper cover being glued into place there. You see. Now you can cut the molded in place distributor off of the front cover there, and we're going to drill a hole where it was to add the aftermarket pre-wired distributor. And also at this time we can add the boots for the spark plug wires. And then finally we'll paint the oil filler tube a semi-gloss black. And now we can add a little few dabs of glue to the front cover there, a little slow setting stuff so that it positions properly. Then we're going to add the front cover to the front of the engine. Just put it into place and wiggle it into position. Let her dry. Okay, be sure to scrape some of the paint off the top of the cylinders there, and we're going to locate the cover, the top of the engine cover there, the shroud that needs to be around the fan in order for the fan to cool off the engine. So we're going to put that into place with some slow setting glue and locate that until it dries. After the shroud has dried, we can run our spark plug wires to some holes that you can drill in the appropriate place. You see where they're located here. And then we're going to paint the the oil filler cap and the end of the generator silver to give that a nice authentic look. And the distributor cap's painted black, and there's a little glue that'll be needed up there to mount the coil wire to hold that into position. So go ahead and finish those details at this time. Now that those details are in place and dried, you see the red arrow here, and that is pointing to the turbo intake manifold. That's part number 217, and that gets attached to the exhaust manifolds. Now it's best to attach the turbo, the carburetor, part 218 to the induction crossover pipe before attaching that to the engine, because there's no distinct spot to attach it on the induction pipe. So take a look here and see where it goes, and remember, scrape the glue. Now the air cleaner, part 219, then also can be attached to the carb and turbo assembly. Now once that the turbo intake manifold has dried well, is a solid position there, the turbo carb air cleaner assembly or subassembly can be glued into position, and after that the exhaust can be glued to the turbo also. Your Corvair Spyder construction is finished, and here are the stock parts that I didn't use, although you could use stock parts for the engine just as well. And of course we changed out the distributor for a pre-wired distributor, but other than that, it's a nice little model all by itself. Well, there you have it. Your model is complete and ready to display or ready to install. And if you want to use one of these to upgrade a dune buggy or a sand wagon, it would make a welcome addition. There's really nothing difficult about putting this together. Maybe the hardest part was self-induced when you add the wires to the the engine, but it makes for a nice little model, and it goes together pretty well. You may need to do a little test fitting to make sure that the slots and pegs, etc., fit into each other, but all in all, it makes a nice looking model, and if I were you, I'd find one and put it on my shelf or in my dune buggy. Well, we hope you like this step-by-step scale modeling methods tutorial, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the lower right of any of our reviews. You could also find us on Facebook or at our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks!